our final report on solar conditions, let's cross to our intrepid reporter in Melbourne, Mike Bird.
The sunspots have returned to the surface of the sun. 8 in all are visible at the moment, after what has been roughly a 2-week period where we hardly had any sunspots visible at all. We believe sunspot cycle 24 has reached or is about to reach its maximum for this cycle, but to observe the sun without any sunspots for nearly 2 weeks is something I have never observed in my 40 years of observing the sun. All the predictions for solar cycle 24 warned us it would be a low one and a very different sunspot cycle, and they were right. Solar activity was low during the past fortnight due to the lack of sunspot regions, but on Thursday the 31st of July and Friday the 1st of August, we witnessed 3 low-strength M-class solar flares, which in turn produced low-strength shortwave fade-outs at times over Europe and the Americas. The solar flux, which is a measurement of the sun's radio noise at a frequency of 2,800 megahertz, ranged between 86 and 168 flux units, which corresponds to effective sunspot numbers of 29 up to 122. So a massive increase in the sunspot number over the past fortnight. The geomagnetic field was quiet to unsettled for the past fortnight thanks to the quiet sun. Unfortunately, the ionosphere suffered from a lack of solar radiation this past fortnight. Generally, the ionosphere couldn't support predicted maximum usable frequencies, and often even optimum working frequencies were a struggle. So if you found your usual reception wasn't quite up to its usual quality and strength, this was most probably the cause.
And what of the next few days, Mike?
Well, IPS Radio and Space Services expect solar activity will range between low to moderate levels, with a good chance some of the sunspots on the solar disk will produce some flares and shortwave fade-outs. As for the geomagnetic field, a small equatorial positioned coronal hole may increase the solar wind speed, which could send it into active thresholds at times, but IPS don't appear to be worried about it too much. As for the geomagnetic field, a small equatorial positioned coronal hole may increase the solar wind speed, which could send it into active thresholds at times. But IPS don't appear to be too worried about it. As for the ionosphere, all things considered, they are predicting normal, optimum, and maximum usable frequencies.
After 40 years, Mike, how many sunspot maximums are we going to have in this cycle?
I don't know. I really don't know. But we have a new one. Solar cycle 24 in January 2014, the smooth sunspot number has risen to 77.4, and IPS are forecasting that the maximum will take place in April with a maximum of around 82. So we'll have to wait and see whether that prediction is correct.
Thank you, Mike. That's great to have the latest propagation news from you. And now, can you give us some idea of what's been happening at the ABC this past couple of weeks?
The Melbourne Age newspaper has reported that the Abbott government has identified in a secret report a further $60 million worth of cuts to the ABC. The Australian government and Rupert Murdoch have a close working relationship, and it is no secret that Murdoch would like the government to disband the ABC and SBS altogether. But of course, that would be political suicide. So the government does the next best thing by cutting their budgets.
Right, thank you, Mike, for that. And seeing this is our last time together on Mailbox, good chance to go down memory lane. You've been in this game for a long time, haven't you?
Yes, I was first actually when I lived in the UK. I was a monitor for Radio Australia. Then I worked for Radio Australia, and then I freelanced with Radio Netherlands, and now I worked with you and Myra, and it's been a very interesting ride.
Yes, it's some emails from listeners have come in saying, "Oh dear, it's sad, but at least you're staying on the air." So that's putting a positive spin on it.
Yes, that's good. You are on the air. That's the main thing. Let's keep shortwave going. I love shortwave. Shortwave is a wonderful medium.
Yeah, I think it's a great favourite with quite a few people, particularly when you look at it as a worldwide thing, as opposed to perhaps within our own domestic audiences within Australia and New Zealand.
Yes, it's very different to domestic radio, and it's a wonderful way of propagating information around the world.
Mike, thank you very much for all your contributions over this past time, and we look forward to enjoying shortwave, even if we're not on the air, to talk about it in Mailbox.
Well, thank you very much. It's been wonderful working with you and Myra, and it's been a great pleasure.